Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode number 58 of Boutique Talk. My name is Jake Boston, otherwise known as Steelbook Obsessed on all your major social media platforms. And if you want to listen to all things physical media related, then you've come to the right place. Every episode, I have on a guest to talk about their physical media journey. And tonight, my guests have worked for Scanavo, the company that makes Steelbooks for a combined 20 years. It's my pleasure to have on Senior Vice President of Sales and Operations in America, Dan Aoki, and Business Development Manager Matthew Marone onto the podcast. Guys, how's it going tonight?
Hello, good evening.
Honored to be here. Thanks, Jake.
The honor is all mine because I have had the name Steelbook Obsessed since 2017, and that would not even be a thing that I fell in love with if it weren't for both of you playing your role in the Scanavo business model. So I'm excited to have you on and pick your brain for a little bit.
You're too humble. Nice to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Well, I guess the first thing I kind of want to talk about is just the history of Scanavo. I know, Dan, you're the grizzled vet out of everybody. You've been there about 18 years now, give or take a couple months. But how did you start working for Scanavo? And if you know the roadmap of how Scanavo ended up becoming what it is today, that'd be awesome if you could just talk us through that.
Yes, I'll do my best. It's a Danish company, hence, and I'm from Denmark, hence the accent. Disclaimer. We as in Scanavo, we're actually turning 35 years this year, so we have an anniversary coming up, and we're very excited about that. So that quick math. So 91, that's when Scanavo was actually started by the owner and CEO. He still runs it today. I report to him. Fun fact is that Scanavo, the V and the O at the end actually is a notch to the old VHS V0 tapes. So it was actually a play on Scanavo. Scanavo is Scandinavian heritage, obviously, and the VO. So it started with the format back then of VHS tape. Some of our early customers were actually Blockbuster. So this was the heyday of VHS. And we were a trading company that were trading, Asia-made V8s. So what I'm trying to say here is this is a format that brought us into the actual business. And ever since, now we're in 26, we have actually moved with all the formats. So we embraced the DVD, what that came on, and obviously Blu-ray. And here we are today with the Ultra HD and 4K in a home entertainment way of looking at it. Matt here can speak about the video game side, which is also a very good business of ours. So Scanavo has always been in physical media. We have embraced optical discs that came on board, and we protected those. And we also have other business units that does TV series, packaging, etc. So people might know that, and people who associate Steelbook with Scanavo or might also, or may or may not know that we have other business units that also are, affiliates in this space. So that's a very short kind of evolution of Scanavo since 1991. Speaking of years, 2004 was when the first Steelbook actually came about and was conceptualized.
And it was a video game Steelbook, right, Matt?
Yes. Someone went to Comic-Con and heard my little Q&A. Yeah.
It was.
As big as a company we are, it's also nice to see how many areas of entertainment we touch. Obviously, it's, Dan brought up Blockbuster, Dan brought up, more home entertainment, but video games is where it all started with the Killzone Collector's Edition Steelbook, and then we've been off to the races since. So whether it's the, what's the count of movies behind you? Do you have the count, or video games, right? I'm sorry, I'm pointing on my screen. But yeah, it's Steelbook is now 26, 27 years. So it's and then 30 plus for the company. So it's exciting to see where we've came from, where we are, and what the future holds.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to go a little bit more into like the origin story, when you say you guys made Blockbuster, like they were one of your big clients, were you the ones that made the actual rental cases that people would bring home whenever they would rent a movie?
It was actually, it was the shell of it. So you put in the magnetic tape. It was called the VO. So it was as I said, it was more of a trading start of the company. But then obviously we immersed ourselves much more into different aspects of the entertainment industry. And I think when I call out our Danish or Scandinavian heritage, I think it's also important to point out that the main engine for Steelbook's success was actually early 2000s, was mostly overseas. It did take the US domestic market a longer time to really embrace it. So we were up and down the streets of Hollywood trying to get this in, whereas we had a lot of success in, let's say, the German and UK market early 2000s. US was actually a later adopter. But that's just a bit of history.
I'm a big history buff, especially when it comes to physical media. I'm a preserver of history behind me, so we're in for a long conversation tonight, because I plan on getting a little bit in the weeds on stuff. I don't know how many times I'll be able to actually have people with this much insight on the podcast, so I am gonna just kind of drill down into the nitty gritty. So I'm glad if you're into history stuff on this stuff, so am I. So I'm ready to talk. I know that one of the cases that Scanavo is known for, before we kind of get into the Steelbook thing, you guys make the cases for Criterion, do you not?
That is correct. That is correct.
Yeah, that's how I kind of learned about Scanavo in general. On the interwebs, these are known as Scanavo cases. How did that partnership come about, and do you remember when about it started?
I don't have the year, so I'm not that much of a history buff. I will say we have huge respect, and we love our partner Criterion. From a design perspective, I think it's interesting that for those of us who remember the Blu-ray and the Blu-ray banner, that was very kind of intrusive, and the creatives of this world and the purists always wanted to kind of work away from it, because you ask any creative department, it's not very easy to. It's actually a very disruptive piece of color that's sitting there on the top. I mention this because Criterion wanted to have a very clean box that, just like a Steelbook these days, doesn't have the banner of the Blu-ray bar, and it's just a clean homage to the franchise. Steelbook early days also had issues, because a lot of times we were by the various lawyers in whatever country would dictate that even a Steelbook would need to have a Blu-ray bar printed on it. So early Steelbooks, Blu-ray Steelbooks are quite, you would be shaking your head today, but those were the stipulations publishing back then. So a long answer to your question, Criterion were able to actually carve out their own format, which is a very clean, very collectible format. And yes, we produce that box for them.
I think that's why people like collecting. I mean, they've been collecting Criterion ever since they were on Laserdisc, for Christ's sakes. But just having cases like this, having the artwork speak for itself, and kind of making I don't know if this is what you were going for, but kind of making the case disappear almost, and just having this just become a work of art all onto itself, and have it really focused on the movie. That's why I really like collecting these for Criterion myself.
I don't know if you, as I'm cutting off the host, but I love art. I'm, obviously Dan talked about video games. I collect a bunch of statues, and some of my favorite statues are ones that are like scenes, or they tell a story without having that, what I call like chess piece bottom to it, where it like just shouts at you the name. And that kind of reminds me of that Criterion collection. It screams art piece, as you say. So I think that's a nice differentiator between what they're doing and some others are doing.
Absolutely. And the Blu-ray banner side of things, like I know that was kind of what they wanted to grow the brand to begin with. The Blu-ray back in the day was Blu-ray versus HD DVD, and you needed to know the difference between the two. So why not just call it out on the actual case itself? But I have a couple of those Steelbooks that have the Blu-ray banner, and it's always drove me nuts, you guys. You have no idea. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. So I'm glad that finally people were able to kind of differentiate between the two models. The HD DVD did not last long, so we were kind of just able to, hey, this is your high definition piece of entertainment. It's going to be in a nice case as well from time to time in these Steelbooks. I guess one of my questions that I have for you guys is the current state of physical media. Steelbooks have been really integral into kind of showcasing off that high quality aspect. Like you have your standard releases, and then if you have something that you want to have stand out a little bit more, you kind of put it out in a steelbook format. The evolution of steelbooks for the past, like, I know I have some DVD ones as well, from DVD all the way to now. How have you seen kind of the business model kind of change with them?
I think we were. I think that's a bit of luck there. I think we were in the right place, and we had fought hard to have the Steelbook as a format. It was humbling early days. I think we were laughed out of certain offices because why would we spend an extra $2 on this? I think the other side of it is the community. I think the fans have really carried us forward, both the consumers, but also the studio industry at large. It is not an easy endeavor, and it's also an expensive one, not only to produce a steelbook, but to prepare the artwork, to get all the approvals. So it takes a village, so to speak. So I think, the community, both the consumers as well as our industry partners, have been extremely supportive throughout, but also because the numbers have been sticking. It's a proven, tried and tested business model to invest in this artwork, and I think the cleanliness of it and the consistency of it, behind you, Jake, the spine. A lot of people speak about the spine, that is a prime piece of real estate that you really can put up and you enjoy looking at it. So I think it's a sum of a lot of things that have kind of kept us floating in an otherwise, let's be honest, declining market for physical media. And then being able to also be early adopters and get the Blu-rays in fast and be part of the 4K movement as well. I think that's been a huge one. We are a small company, we're also global. So getting the right stakeholders to support us in LA, and as well as the European head offices and also out in Asia, also creates, from a B2B perspective, the environment where we get support all over. And then I would say, just to kind of cap up the value chain, the retailers, they can see the price point, lifting the price point, starving the audience. That's been a huge driver in our business. New to 4K, I'll just cap it by saying, was a huge driver back in the heydays of Best Buy, where a good catalog titles for the nth time is re-released, but if it's fresh artwork and it's new to format, also a very solid business model. So those are the ones I could highlight from the movie side. I think Matt could probably speak to the video game side as well.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, video games. We're going through a fun time right now with a couple of things happen over the next year and a half, let's call it. But I think both the audience, the publishers, and the developers all see an opportunity for having something physical for their IPs that's more than just a game case, or how that code's being brought out there. And the fans that are going to be spending $70, $80, $90, whatever the game price is, or $40 for a 4K steelbook or for a 4K release, they want to show off their fandom for that IP. And not every title is going to get a $300 collector's edition or like a deluxe edition or whatever. So something that's more than just the blue Amore case is something that everyone kind of just, whether it's on a shelf or online, your eyes automatically go to it. So I think in the video game world and the home entertainment world, the push to do it is still there, since the audience is still looking at it and they're still fiending and wanting for it, especially if you got some really cool art with it.
Right. And I guess that kind of leads on the video game side of things. You briefly touched upon it, but the PlayStation decision on not being able to, they're not going to make physical games starting at the end of 2027, if I'm not mistaken. And that also means that gaming consoles are not going to have a disc drive, more or less, in the future, whenever those get announced in the next couple of years. I know personally, my first DVD player was a PS2. My first Blu-ray player was a PS3. My first 4K player was a PS5. So I'm curious to see where the landscape of physical media is here, even in the next 5 years. I think it's going to change drastically. I don't think it's going to go away by any means, but I think the relative ease of like kind of transitioning somebody from the game realm to the movie realm is going to be a lot more difficult than what it currently is.
It sure is going to be interesting. I will say the world and where we are as people in industry is a lot different now than it was 2 or 3 years ago, where I think a lot of people, we're still coming out of COVID or whatever you want to call it. There was a lot of uncertainties, do I want to spend my money on this thing now? Is it good? There's definitely been a big turn within both markets over the past, 18 to 24 months. I mean, look at what Brand New Day just did in the theaters. And I just read an article that Doomsday is tracking 65% higher for the first couple of days in crazy formats, like tracking higher than Brand New Day, which is insane to think about. So it's like, are movies back? Yes, they are. And then not only are they back in theater, but now they're also back in at home too, for either me or myself, or, I mean, you see the Legos behind me, but for my son when it comes out on Blu-ray. I think it's the same with video games too. There's definitely been a resurgence starting, I think with Expedition 33 last year. Customers have been screaming, video gamers have been screaming, and now you're seeing the reward after the whole digital, let's just throw everything out there, like Fortnite, which I still play today, or Warzone, which I still play today. These single player long format stories are coming out there, and the fiending or wanting from someone like myself and others are more than just the game. We know it's going to be good now, so let give me something more. What else can I show my fandom for Gears of War E-Day, for Halo Combat Evolved, or the countless Nintendo titles. So, the studios are making great games. The studios are great at making good movies, and we're able to tie into that when it launches to give the fans something that they can talk about with their friends for hopefully a very long time.
Yeah, and even though the discs are going away, I don't think the wanting to own is going to go away, or the physicality of holding something in your hands is going to go away. You guys have the entire industry has a very uphill battle when it comes to like how you're going to market things physically when there's no actual disc to physically pop in. I know you can't really go much into details about that now, but I do think there are possibilities of how you can still kind of make things collectible, even if you only have a code inside the box to kind of offer to the consumers.
Yeah, I think they're also kind of, we kind of go back and forth between video games and home entertainment, but they're also very different kind of shapes and sizes and beasts for that matter. I think the data points behind the video games industry is very much a digital adaptation. There is a very high rate of people purchasing their products online, and let's be honest about it, a physical media in video game space these days is very much an entry, a key to a much larger data set video games. It's a huge video game, but so I think there's a lot of I would say affinity with touching and feeling and owning for sure. Going back to home entertainment, I always look at it as, well, that's a true that's a steelbook with a true fully product inside. You have your UHD disc, and you can play it until it's it starts melting, right? So that's the distinction. So I think on the video game side there has to be kind of a reckoning that in as much as we want to pack up a code, you also don't want to have a very nice code holder where you're just going to scratch the code and throw it away, and then you have an empty shell. I think the challenge for us is to come up with something that is relevant, like in-world items, something that has association with it, that it builds around it. So I think the industry at large needs to be much more creative in this. And I think the last I'll say about video games is we have seen a trend, and Matt can speak to this more elaborate than I can, but we're looking at these big games coming out on much lower frequency. Whereas we see movies coming out on higher frequency, we see video games have much longer development cycles. So the celebration and the marketing and the actual impact at retail and all me, that's where we actually help celebrate these moments. That's where we fit in, because people need to go to midnight launches. They want to touch and feel something. So it's a kind of we typically fill we fill in gaps, different places in the big marketing machine, if that makes sense. A little bit more traditional on the home entertainment side, in my view. So we try to kind of we've been very lucky that Steelbook as a form factor has been able to just transcend across all these formats.
Yeah.
But I think that might change as we move forward. But we're here we've been here for 35 years. We've seen a lot of changes. I agree with Matt. This is probably one of the biggest ones, but we have a lot of things up our sleeve that we're going to be plugging the next couple of months for sure.
But to the collectability side of things, you brought up how, some people might scratch off the code and then kind of toss it away.
Mm-hmm.
About, almost a decade ago now, you guys make steelbooks in all shapes and sizes. And there was one type of steelbook that was the size of that you guys used to just put digital codes in. One of which was for John Wick. Correct. And I thought that thing was so dang cool. You really don't have a reason to keep a code of John Wick, but you guys made the code look like the card to the Continental and where you have to like get into that establishment. I think just making you feel like more intertwined with the IP that you love on something like that is kind of ideal and key to kind of keep that stuff growing. And I also miss the mini steelbooks, by the way. I really loved those. I know there were only a handful of those made.
Yes, no, that's and let's shout out to Aaron Gersman and Lionsgate. That was a really cool execution. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think that's where we have to bring a little bit of creativity and in-world relevance. I also think the activation of talent, a little bit of if you get a little bit of a touch of a talent inside and the story behind it, that's always something we try to challenge the studios on. I think on the video game side, the developers are much more open to say, hey, there are actually people here who care about this as a letter from the developer. I wish that the studios at large could get a little bit more love from the theatrical marketing budget and the talent going around the world. I wish there could be a little bit of love for the physical release. Anecdotally, there are some, but it's a rarity.
But I would say that whenever a splash is made in like physical media releases, it's more or less really not just the standard releases of anything. It's more of like the collectible side of things. A perfect example that I can think of off the top of my head is the Project Hail Mary. They just came out with a 4K standard edition. You can buy it at Walmart. That's great. But they also, in a couple of months, are coming out with a Steelbook format, which is sold out on Amazon multiple different times over because people really love that movie that came out this year. And I don't know creative wise, like how that packaging came to be on that Project Hail Mary. It's got the hard box with a Steelbook inside. The price is not crazy for what you're getting. Like that was just a great culmination of just throwing something different at the wall, and it definitely stuck. I'm really hoping that companies out there kind of in the future look for more original, unique ideas when it comes to packaging their products, because I really think that the consumer base is striving for that these days.
I just want to actually hit on that a little bit because it goes to what's behind him, and you said it before too, Dan. Whether it's video games or movies, a lot of the success that we've seen with both these editions and steelbooks are when they're looked at as a celebration. And I will give, can't go too crazy into it, obviously, but Lord and Miller, they're obviously fantastic producers, directors, and storytellers. They put a lot of love into what that edition was going to be with their partners. And clearly the fans have felt it, and clearly the fans have seen it. I could say to the same to the Gears of War E-Day Collector's Edition on the Gears of War side. That I think is sold out now. So that's 2 months prior to launch, which is not an easy task with collector's editions nowadays with video games. So in general, both on the home entertainment end and just in the collectability world, when studios, publishers, developers, creators look at these as this is going to be a celebration for a launch. It was successful in the movies. Let's have some fun with it and really push it. You have a success like a Project Hail Mary for sure.
how long of a process is it to kind of go from having like a
$1 billion
creative
question.
unit, having a creative unit like Lord and Miller be like, hey, we want to have something unique for our physical media release of this movie. How long of a process is it from having that idea to actually having a final concept that you can hold in your hand?
Ideally, or what actually happened?
Give me both. Give me everything.
There's levels to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I may start on the home entertainment side, Matt can speak obviously to much more than I can on the video game side, but I think we have to look at the whole product evolution, like as it go theatrical, and we always have early talks with the studios about artwork selection, and we actually take a few rounds with them. And some of the studios, they're dialed in. Other studios come to us for consultation on, hey, do you think this will speak to the audience? Do you think this resonates? Are there some kind of things that we should be looking out for? Because at Scanavo, we have that kind of broad knowledge of it. But to answer your question, it is not easy to get artwork bespoke for Steelbook and to get permissions, because everything needs to run up the approval tree, and to get very hands-on directors these days for high-stake releases to approve these things, whether that's this or that director, no names mentioned. Some are harder to work with than others. So I think the approval jungle that we live in, from both the artist, the talent, as well as the legal side of it, is really it's not a very sexy thing to talk about, but it is the world we live in. And I think to get the artwork on time to manufacture in time for street date is across the studios, kind of on a behind the scenes note, quite the challenge. So it's not a straight line. I think that's what Matt is also hinting at. There are always bumps, and somebody comes in late, or some central stakeholder is in a faraway island, and this talent just doesn't move until the talent is ready to move. So that's where the studios, as I said, in as much as we produce Steelbooks and we own the brand, the preparation of artwork and support from the industry partners is extremely valuable, and people might not know about that. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think there's been a little bit of pushback from what I've seen on the consumer side, to where number one, the turnaround time between a movie being in theaters and a movie being on physical media has never been quicker. We're talking about 2 to 3 months. It's kind of crazy how quickly that turnaround is happening. But I am assuming that making a Steelbook is a heck of a lot harder than just making your run-of-the-mill 4K Blu-ray standard disc. So I would assume that that's why there is a little bit of like a waiting period in between a maybe just a plastic release as opposed to a Steelbook release.
I can speak to the manufacturing part, and that's a turnaround that typically takes 6 to 8 weeks, and if everything runs smooth, and that includes approval, not to get too technical. But I think that what you're talking about also is the windows that have really been the whole window thing, as we talk about theatrical or streaming release, and then the physical release. COVID really disrupted those windows. Some studios went very aggressive, and they wanted to turn around faster because there were no rules in that period. So we're kind of coming out a little bit like, whoa, where's the consensus at the moment? There are marketing calendars, there are events, there are Father's Days that they'd rather do home entertainment with. So there are a lot of things that move things around in those calendars. But our production of it is 6 to 8 weeks, and that's a very different mindset you need to come to Scanavo with when you're in a studio than your local printer. And I don't, no disrespect to paper and carton print, but that's a shorter turnaround time. So early days as well, it was very hard for us to explain to people that A, it was a very expensive media packaging product, and B, that the turnaround time it's much longer than we're used to. But it took many years, decades actually, for the industry to dial into it now, and that's I wasn't part of the people who broke into this, but it was really, so we're standing on those shoulders for sure.
On the video game side of things, is it about the same?
Sorry. No, I would say we have as far as the overall production goes, it's 6 to 8 weeks. I think with marketing calendars and how gaming goes, because it's all physical day one, when it comes to launch. Like you have a hard deadline, a hard date, like this thing's coming out regardless. We have a little bit more window in conversations and talking when we're just talking steelbooks. So we usually try to have those conversations, a couple months prior to that, because a lot of the times for video games, they're doing very big bespoke art. I think one of the latest examples that I have on that actually, again, sits behind Dan. We did the Gears of War E-Day Steelbook with the Coalition, who works heavily with amazing artists. Luke, I got to make sure I get his last name right here. So I apologize if I do butcher it. Priest. He's done art for Metallica. Like you see his art, you know exactly what it is. It's fantastic, and it's nice to see studios. Same thing with Brand New Day, them using Mexifunk to do the limited edition steelbook for it. It's nice to see when those studios think that far in advance and go, okay, let's really take the steelbook and look at it as a canvas for art. It's going to be special. Let's have some fun with it. Let's not just do the generic key art. No disrespect to the key arts out there, but let's kind of like take this a step further, because this is, a couple more dollars than a Blu-ray. Let's make it look and feel that way too. So, couple months maybe, give or take, but it's not too much longer than the actual production of it is what it is. But when you start working with those artists, you got to think of maybe like 2 or 3 months prior to that.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. A look behind the curtain. It never really happens with Scanavo, so I'm kind of happy that this insight is finally kind of at least getting out there a little bit, because I've always been curious about that.
It's not always one shot.
Yeah.
There's a vision sometimes. You get it down on your proof, and then you're looking at it, and we're like, hey, can we talk about this? They're coming less, and we go back and forth on it. And sometimes there needs to be second round. So we always trying to bake in. So it is fun to see sometimes where the original art, 2 or 3 concepts, pen to paper, came from, to what the proof was, to what actually came out onto mass production. Because sometimes they're wildly different. Sometimes it's easy peasy, no one's sweating or anything like that. But it is definitely a unique and fun process for sure.
Yeah, and just kind of give you some Jake, I think again we're way too humble, but I also want to say that post launch, the Reddit groups are getting a lot of attention from the studios, your own channel, etc. So your voice about the reception of Steelbook and calling out certain aspects of things that are better than others, you would be surprised how much we are spending in time in meetings where people are referring to Reddit groups as a test environment or as a focus group to kind of get to level up next time. So that's just a shout out to you and your community. Again, we are only as strong as the community also embraces our product. So there's a lot of listening to your community, I can tell you.
And shout out to the Reddit Steelbook forums. I want to say last I checked, they finally hit over 100,000 members in that community, which is wild. Incredible. But it also makes a heck of a good proving ground for some of your proof of concepts if you just want to go and see feedback from people.
100%. As high up the chain you can get in Hollywood, people are looking at those Reddit groups for sure to get feedback. It is, and the retailers alike, they want to test it. So that's definitely something they're listening to.
Yeah. See, people, everybody listen here. Your voice matters. Just kind of now you know where to go, where some of these higher ups are actually going and looking. So if you're not part of Reddit Steelbook, I highly recommend it. So many great discussion threads that are on there constantly. I'm on there daily myself. I guess another thing while I have you guys on here, in the planning process, I'm a big lover of embossing and debossing and all of that stuff that you can really only do with the Steelbook format. You can do it with slip covers almost on like a cardboard side of things, but there's something about just like having that done on metal, having there were 3 different iterations of hard boiled. I decided to go with this one because the Steelbook just looks amazing. There's just nice, the lettering pops out. I don't know why the States don't do the borders more around here. It just adds like another sense of depth that I really love. Is there a certain reason why more companies aren't doing the embossing and debossing, or is it just kind of like a case-by-case basis as to why they don't?
It's very subjective, if you ask me. I not that I sit in every creative meeting, but I've definitely heard the voices saying, "Oh, I subjectively don't like the debossing frame. I think it interferes with the overall flow of things." So I think there's a large element of subjectivity and kind of certain studios, or rather film studios, being dialed in to a certain aspect. So I would say it really depends on who's at the end of the table and who makes the last decision. I think also that, me personally, if it elevates the artwork and doesn't take away from it, it shouldn't be an embossing and then put on the artwork. You have those unique interplays where suddenly it makes all the sense in the world, and that's where Scanavo consults a lot with the studio, saying, "Hey, have you thought about this? Let's play with the metal, not against it. Don't try to, push something on that you can't achieve with metal." So there's a lot of consultancy going on about varnishes, metal effects, shine throughs, embossing, debossing. It's all on the table, and there's a lot of rounds of proofs to go in. And so the end product is just one rudimentary version, but every steelbook, I can guarantee, especially a new release, would have had a lot of deliberation.
Okay.
So I can't really say a general thing about that, but each studio has its own kind of method of thinking.
Sure. One that comes to mind immediately from last year that really, it would have just been a very average looking release if it weren't for the debossing, was the Constantine Steelbook. Oh my God. Like, that artwork just popped like mad with all of the different debossings and made the flames stand out, and really made it one of my favorite physical media releases of last year, just because of how gorgeous that Steelbook went. And really, you only could have gotten that effect with an actual printing on the Steelbook. It looked so good in person. Bravo to your team. I know that on the video game side of things, there's usually more embossing, debossing than there is in the movie side of things. I guess, is there like a correlation as to why that is? I've always been curious.
It's this is me speaking. This is Scanavo. Dan brought it up to before with creatives. Who's at the table at the end of the time. When it comes to Steelbooks, we're working with the creative director of the game. For movies, we're generally not working directly with Christopher Nolan or whatever executive producer it is. I mean, we love Aaron, we love Baron and all those guys across the board, but it still needs to go through someone at the head of that table. And I feel like with as I just said, with Steelbook, a lot of the times we're working directly with those people. Silent Hill F, for instance, where they have like a silk screening on it that it makes it the woman's face, girl's face, like fungusy. Just feeling it is weird. But to Dan said, they send us, we produce it, we still do and consult back and forth. Hey, what about this? Hey, what about this? And then, it goes through questions, amongst any other thing. But I think the main reason is for video games is we're directly talking with those individuals, those creative directors, those art directors. Hey, we love this art. We saw this trailer. We've done these things before. Let's do this. And it just hits a different ear, I guess you can kind of say, with it. What I will say is I really do like, because you brought up Constantine. I actually really like, do you have, I assume you do, but the Everything Everywhere All at Once Steelbook? I really like what we did with the embossing, debossing, because it doesn't have the border around it. We found a unique area for the logo to have it, so it didn't create that frame around the whole thing. And that's the creativity. That's us getting together and kind of having fun with it. And that's where I think some of these best pieces of art in Steelbooks come from.
I always like to see unique pieces in Steelbook. I know Dan was kind of talking and getting like really in depth and in particular with what you can actually do with a Steelbook. Are there any different types of, whether it be just looking at whether like it's a gloss or matte, or any type of like very specific detail that Steelbooks are able to get out there that really haven't been published a lot from like mass studio releases?
I think we always try to challenge new technology, embracing new techniques. I think the silk screens are something that still can be mined a little bit in terms of both texture. It could also be glow in the dark, etc.
Yeah.
So I think as techniques allow it within a certain budget, then we'll keep pushing it. I personally think we need to walk a fine line between become gimmicky and still stay true and genuine. And I've seen certain techniques and products where it's like, that's too cheesy, that's too gimmicky. So we still want to stay, in lack of a better word, classy and loyal to the product. So the canvas that Matt talked about before has still to be a proper canvas that is really, and that's sometimes simplicity. It doesn't have to be layers of complex things. It's sometimes the style, maybe with an Easter egg here and there. I think the bar, I think, still is, and I mean no disrespect to the studios at large, but Lionsgate has always been pushing the envelope on this. So that's definitely the highest bar, I think, that we've seen. So again, shout out to Lionsgate and Aaron for keep pushing ideas that not even we have. But don't get me wrong, studios are challenging us all the time. Get better, get sharper, get wider, get glossier. 100%. We love that push.
I really love the originality from Lionsgate. They've been doing it for a very long time now.
Yeah.
First one I can think of is just like whenever they started adding slipcovers onto Steelbooks. Such a game changer. I wish more studios would get on board with that. Because not only can you add more art on top of it, it also adds a protective layer onto the Steelbook so it doesn't get any scratches or dings or anything like that. I'm kind of shocked. I mean, there have been a couple of studios that have done it every now and again, but that should become more of the norm rather than just kind of a one-off for some of these studios. I would love to see it.
Absolutely. It does cost more. I will also say that it is an interesting evolution of the O-ring, because the O-ring in many early days was very much of a keeping the legal teams happy, because every release needs to have a lot of legal print. And the O-ring was that, because fans, they don't care about that print. And you called out the Blu-ray Steelbooks. You probably also have the old Steelbooks with so much legal mumbo jumbo in the back, which is heartbreaking. But that's where the O-rings evolution, and they just took it to another level. I think that's extremely interesting. Well done.
Yeah, I guess on the video game side of things, I know that I don't see a lot of slipcover action going on to there. I do see that like Nintendo has their own different size of Steelbook, which I always love to see. They're kind of few and far between, but whenever they come out, I feel almost obligated to grab them because they look so dang nice and they're just so unique within the Steelbook space.
Yeah, they have a slightly different form factor, thinner, and it's however you measure it, less wide, let's go with, compared to a normal, Blu-ray, Xbox, PC case for it. But it's actually fun to see when we're creating these Steelbooks for gaming, and it is a multi-platform release that has it. The canvas, as I said before, it doesn't get changed really. You don't really see any cutoffs. The artists that they work with are keeping that in mind, so that if there is a PlayStation, Xbox, or PC version and a Switch version, the art that they're making for one will easily translate to another, and they're not being lost. But yeah, you're right. Nintendo is. I grew up on Nintendo. Obviously, they are very meticulous when it comes to the Steelbook and the art that goes onto it. And personally speaking and business speaking, I love them for it because they see value, and their fans do as well in it. And it's nice to see when they go up and they vanish like that.
No, absolutely. And I guess this is another type of question that I have a few questions from the audience that I've kind of gathered, but one that I have before I kind of get into that, I'm assuming there has to be a certain type of print run for Steelbooks in order to actually have the entire process starting to run. I know that back in the heyday of physical media, I'm assuming that you guys could make tens of thousands of these and that they would be gone. Nowadays in 2026, as we're recording this, has that print run, I know it's shrunk, but like how low are we talking on what a print run can be for a Steelbook?
Yeah, so there are certain factors. I start by saying we typically start around 4,000 pieces. Okay. And that number has been established because of the the startup, the resources going into starting up a project, it's not just Control P and then you 3D print or whatever you do. It's not like that. So just to kind of walk through the process of it, you take these big metal sheets that are, and then you actually put, you print on them. That's lithography. So you take something hard and you put something soft on it, and that's never going to stick. So what you do is you bake these big sheets through an oven multiple times with CMYK, and then you put on varnish. So the process of baking multiple times, putting on varnish, make that harden, then you cut out the sheets, you wrap them around the steelbook. The wrapping and cutting is somewhat easy, but the startup process to calibrate the colors, because it's offset, you have a lot of wastage before you're dialed in to make sure that you're hitting the exact skin color or title treatment of what the studios stipulate.
Sure.
So that, of course, needs to be built into the cost. So we typically are able to go to market to the studios around 4,000 upwards. And that entry point, not to share too much on the cost, is still fairly high.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the sweet spot is much higher from a cost perspective. And then we're talking about the, tens of thousands should be a healthier one, because these are huge machineries. We're not talking a kitchen oven here. We're talking an oven that's like 2 Greyhound buses long that goes through. So energy, labor, and again, a shout out to the printers on the floor, because this is a very much of a, what do you call it? It's a trade. You got people on the floor standing there with the proof from the studio, calibrating in the middle of the night and making sure I nailed it. And it might take half an hour and 2 sheets. It might take 3 hours and 15 sheets. That's the complexity of Steelbook. So these same ovens, they produce, popcorn buckets, or they might do, packaging for the food industry. So we are the anomaly. I always joke about the fact that you might have a Call of Duty production on one side of the production hall, and then you've got a tuna fish or a tobacco tin running next to it. But it's the same lithography technique. So it's just a little bit of peek behind the curtain there. So there's a lot of complexity around that, and also why it's very expensive.
Interesting. Yeah. One of the questions I had was from Movie Alien 201, how Steelbook art is put on. You kind of went a little bit into detail on that. How does the actual plastic pieces get put inside of the Steelbook once it's actually been ran with the artwork on one side?
So I'm going to use my hands, etc. So you basically you print the sheets, both the front, the back, and also the spine. So all of those colors, they work together, and there's alignment. So you have kind of 3 components. Then we actually have a fully automated, once you cut the sheets out, it actually wraps the metal around the PP parts, we'll call it polypropylene plastic parts. So it's a very highly tailor-made and highly custom-made piece of machinery that wraps the metal around it. There are some proprietary techniques around it. It's a very noisy machine, and it can spit out hundreds per minute, and there's a robot involved as well. So it's a fully automated process.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, back in the day, Discovery Channel used to do How It's Made, and I've always been curious on how a Steelbook one was. I was able, in the intro of this, to kind of show a little bit of that process, but I would love to see a fully in-depth video from start to finish on how something goes from conceptual to actual physical in your hand.
2 quick points on that. Yes, we should be better at that, because I think there is a story behind it. I think this day and age, when everything is so, I think the craftsmanship of it is underappreciated, and I would love to communicate that. So that's something, challenge accepted, no promises. The other thing is that when we take studio partners to our actual facility under NDAs and curtains, what have you, their mind just goes, whoa,
right,
I didn't know this. And they get a whole different appreciation of how it's made. But they're also, the creative brains actually see, whoa, can you do that? I never thought of that. So there's a lot of kind of, people coming into the kitchen and thinking up new ideas. Aaron, again, came to the factory. I think he mentioned that as well, and on one of your recordings, that was a very much of an eye-opener for him in many ways. It's very humbling.
Another question that I have, kind of talking about the making of Steelbook side of things, from Tidbit Kid, have they ever been requested to make a VHS size Steelbook or a vinyl size Steelbook?
So
I think that would
vinyl,
be very cool. Just different types of medium. Like I know
yeah,
vinyl is huge. It's
yes,
been popping for the past, I don't know, 7 to 8 years.
yeah.
VHS is also coming out with a boon. I don't even know if that's possible, but that would go back to the Blockbuster heyday almost. That'd be kind of a 360
Almost
bookend.
throwback
That'd be cool.
360.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was it that you grilled me and the people at Questionwise at San Diego Comic-Con? What was it regarding? It was
The
regarding a
Fabello.
product called
The Fabello. Yeah, Fabellos
So-
are I love them, and there's only been one announced so far, and it's driven me crazy. That Sleepy Hollow was like one of my favorite pieces in my collection.
you brought up vinyl records. You know, John, who I think you met at San Diego, he's a big audio file, so like myself too. He has a record player,
Yeah.
and I don't know if Dan, if you could take it, but there are things in the works vinyl wise.
Yeah. So we
Ooh.
are actually trying to a few things. Yes, we are prototyping something at the moment, and that's definitely something we're looking at. It's there is a demand, but also I just want to call out CDs, and I didn't know that, but CDs actually are trending upwards as well, and outselling vinyls in volume. Spoke to a retailer about this last week. So CDs are back, and you didn't call out cassette tapes. You know, we don't have VHS, but that would be a huge kind of full circle moment for Scanavo if that would be happening. But we are listening to it. There are very high entry costs whenever we have a different format.
Of course.
So there are a few things that needs to be taken into account. But yes, we're going full in on vinyl, and that's a different team that handles that. Go ahead.
No. But we've used our Blu-ray form factor, or even like I had, because I still have the Xbox 360 ones. You know, BioShock Infinite. I forgot that they were that big. Mm-hmm. We've used our Steelbooks as a medium for that. We did the PlayStation 20th anniversary Steelbook, and it looked like the original PlayStation. Right. We've done cassette players, I think, for Guardians of the Galaxy. Like there's been IPs that we've worked on before that celebrated the release and used the Steelbook to look like something else. And again, they were probably some of the most best-selling and most sought-after ones.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. A conceptual Steelbook it just hits a soft spot in my heart. I absolutely love it.
Same.
You talked about the cassette for Guardians of the Galaxy. Looks great. Hocus Pocus had a replica book inside of it that kind of looked like a prop from the movie. Very, very cool stuff. Another thing that I am a big lover of are your guys' library cases. I am a big fan of having just like a big fat collection of some type of IP that I love, whether it be Batman or Harry Potter or anything like that. Do you guys make those cases as well? And how long have they been being made for? Because I really have only seen them in the public for the past decade or so.
Yeah, it's immensely popular. They require planning. They require more assets. They're also quite the investment on the side, but they also, they're able to keep a very healthy price point, and we're seeing more and more studios embracing that. Shout out to Warner, who keep rolling these out year on year. I think the Harry Potter, or was it Game of Thrones, that probably was the first one where Warner again said, let's really commit to something, and this was a huge franchise. So it typically takes one or two big franchises to really break through the mold. And again, this is where the studios challenge us and say, hey, we want to do something much bigger. Come on, let's do something. So we took the same material and we built out the library case, also making Reddit also has strong opinions about how easy to pull it out, protect it, etc. So it's a very kind of integrated product that makes all the sense. But again, there's a lot of planning going on behind the scenes on that one. So that appreciate that you like it.
I think that's actually a good note too. Your name is Steelbook is Obsessed. We're Scanavo, and our branded product is Steelbook, but we are much more than that. You know, obviously it's our bread and butter. It's one of the, you know, dare I say, one of the reasons why we're here today. But, you know, we have other product out there in metal that fits the bill, that is in this category, that people, if they own a Steelbook, would also love and should seek out potentially those other things like library cases. Crunchyroll is another great partner with library cases for us, even creating the Steel Nook, so you can just mix and match or create your own collection in there. We have our icon art as well that we've done a bunch of programs, both in video games and home entertainment for, Fabello as well, and Titans Occult for some more catalogs. And you know, as I brought up before, we are building out, you know, with studios both on the movie side, TV, entertainment, streaming, and video game side, to build out these full release limited and collector's editions as well, where we're partnering with them to produce everything, not just the Steelbook that goes inside of it. So the premium quality, the attention to detail, sleepless nights, to make sure, you know, if you're spending $300 or $200 on a CE or 120 or whatever it is, you know that it has the Steelbook complete backing and Scanavo complete backing behind it.
Absolutely. And I've just recently been getting into the icon art side of things. Just the poster game in general, yeah. I'm very new to, but I do kind of like having a lot of these collector's editions come with posters. Mm-hmm. I really do like the icon arts though, just because the same reason why I fell in love with Steelbooks is mm-hmm. because you're able to see that embossing, debossing. There's more of like a detailed artwork that pops off of metal whenever it's just kind of hanging. So give me a Steelbook art, but it's larger and just makes that pop on the wall. So when people come over, that's like one of the first things they point out. First, it's my collection. Second, they actually look around and like, oh yeah, I like that. I have a Stranger Things poster. They really like that one quite a bit. Yeah. I guess on the one of the other questions that I had here, kind of going away from Steelbook a little bit, they also do like your library cases for Steelbooks, but they were curious if there was kind of something similar to what a library case is, but for Criterion, for those standard cases, to where there's like a premium box set that, mm-hmm. or even like a standard box set that somebody could buy and purchase, to where they could kind of make their own little box sets and just kind of slide them in and have their own unique piece in their collection.
You know, that's a great shout out for our product development team. I'll carry that to Criterion next time I see them. I think that's a great call out. I do think there are the occasional paper carton box out there. Mm-hmm. As a Steelbook collector myself as well, I do appreciate that there's a coherence between the actual material of the Steelbook and the library case. To me, that's a perfect match. But I hear what you're saying. I'll take that note back to our product development team for sure. And I just want to just echo what you said, Jake, about it is a canvas and the icon arts, but it's interesting that, going back to the codes we talked about before, 2 quick notes. The Stranger Things that he called out is actually, it's a Netflix product. So this mm-hmm. is also what we're trying to do. We're trying to embrace streaming content to give them a life outside of, digital. So, and I think going back to codes, which is going to be the future probably for PlayStation, I think that will be a very good vessel for the codes, that you maybe get an icon art, in a certain format that has mm-hmm. a code, but you still keep, and you can collect and you can display characters, something that resonates with the franchise. So those are the things I think we are leaning into. It has to have relevance. We really much. It can easily be gimmicky, but we also want to make sure things are not thrown away. Environmentally, we don't want to support anything where you just get it and throw it away. So something in that space we're definitely working on.
I honestly think, like, even in some certain releases, you could mm-hmm. put it with any release, but having mm-hmm. some type of, because I know with icon art, it comes with a magnet to stick it mm-hmm. to a wall. Yeah. I have a Steelbook wall. I see the Steelbook wall behind you as well. I think even just including some type of magnet with certain Steelbook releases to kind of give people the idea, hey, I can either put this on my shelf, or I can kind of make this more of a call out piece just in my everyday life and look at it all the time when it's just hanging up on my wall. Because that's one of my favorite things in my entire basement is just the Steelbook wall. I switch it out a handful of times a year, whether it be for October spooky season time or Christmas, or I have like a summer movie one that I have up now. Just another reason why I love Steelbooks is just there's multiple different ways of how you can kind of showcase them off and kind of get excited about the movies that you love and kind of see the artwork again. It gives you another reason to pull it off of the shelf and just kind of showcase it off once again.
So is your Steelbook wall like your mood wall? If I walk in and be like, okay, no, I'm gonna stay away from Jake today. Like, or he's
I hope not. Yeah, I hope not that bad. Yeah, when all
I like that though. I like how you change it. That's actually really cool.
I have to. Yeah, I feel like especially it just kind of makes sense if I'm putting Halloween decorations up. I got to put the different themed Steelbooks up as well, and just for all the holidays where you're decorating. My Steelbook wall has 20 different options of putting Steelbooks up. So at this point, I have pretty much a lot of holidays pictured out. Like when it's not Christmas and it goes into just like the winter time, I have enough snowy Steelbooks to where I'm able to like cover an entire wall. But yeah, it just kind of when I'm watching the movie, my TV is right here, my Steelbook wall is right here, so I still can kind of see it while I'm watching movies. It's just I don't know, Zen mode. It just brings me peace, Matthew.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Love it.
I guess before we get off the library case train, I know that you guys have started to kind of do a little bit of differentiating in the library cases too, with the burger having the red felt on the inside. Totally made that thing feel completely unique. Loved that. I know at San Diego Comic-Con, it was talked about that one of the cases might be glow in the dark for a certain IP. Don't know what that is, but I am very intrigued for sure on that. Are there any other types of anything that you can do on a Steelbook? Can you move that to a library case as well?
I believe so, right? For the most part.
I think you lost in the question. Move what from the Steelbook to the library case?
Any aspects that you can kind of put onto a Steelbook? Are you able to do the same thing for a library case?
It is technically it's the same print technique. So yes, you can do that. Again, there could be budgetary restrictions, etc. I would love to take credit, or my team would take credit for the foam, but this is the uniqueness of sitting down with somebody creative. We have ideas, but they bring things to us and challenge us like, wow, I didn't think of that. You know, sometimes we also have bespoke plastic colors inside that plays with the IP and then has the right contrast, etc. So I think in any of our materials, we can have different colors. So again, if something lends itself to it, then we will go all the way for sure. But the print technique, to answer your question, Jake, is the same. It's off-press litho, both with its limitations, but also potential. Again, we're trying to work with the metal, not work against it.
Yeah, sure. It's also an adoption thing too, right, Dan? Like, Steelbook has been around for 20 plus years. Library case has been less than a handful. So as we work with these studios, as it's being adopted more, not just by them, but by fans and consumers like yourself, and the feeding and wanting and needing more than the glow in the dark. The silk screening may come on it, things like that. It's just an adoption and a growth part of it. Same thing I would say with our icon art as well.
Yeah. I think also as the studios, they mine through their catalogs. They went, hey, what makes sense? Are we going to do a kind of I'm still hoping for a Christopher Nolan collection, but whatever it might, there was Steelbook connection. They see this as a platform to, re-educate or bring consumers back to the well. And if you do it in a clever way, then we're all going to support it for sure. So I think Scanavo lends itself to creating those moments, anniversary moments, etc., seasonal moments. Absolutely.
I don't know why, but in my head, it's like, oh, what can we do? Christopher Nolan, The Odyssey. Yeah, let's do a scratch and sniff Odysseus, smell Matt Damon's. But like, I don't know why my brain went there, like something different. I'm sorry. It's late right now.
My mind went to library cases and just have every movie he's ever shot on IMAX in the case and have the case look like an IMAX camera.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, exactly.
I think that would be very great.
The
Yeah.
format, exactly. No,
Right.
that's a lot. You know, we've been. Sometimes you also have to control the environment, because I've been with creators. I think it was in Tokyo, famously, anecdotally, where it's like, I
Oh,
want to have a feature. I want to have a feature that only comes out in the full moon. I want to make sure the UV hits it, and then something comes out, the Easter egg, or you have to be at a certain latitude
Oh,
to
wow.
activate a certain artwork, or you have to be at 5 meters of water. We want consumers to dive underwater, and then a code will come out when you're underwater. You know, there is no limit to the creativity of some of these creative brains. Sometimes you just need to reel them in a little bit. Yeah,
Or even like something with heat, like you touch it and then it kind of just like gets
Yes.
affected by the temperature of your hand, I guess. That'd be kind of cool.
That's a feature. We do have heat varnish, where you can put your hand on, and then you just have a little bit of glow, and then it
That'd be kind of
disappears. So
wicked. Yeah.
there are things you can do as well. But again, if it obtains too much either cost, or it's also a liability because of scratching or cutting, we always have to stay in a safe environment where there's no too many sharp corners, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing on library cases, we talked about how Lionsgate kind of reinvented the game with putting a slipcover over the Steelbook.
Yeah.
I think having some type of slipcover over a library case would be great, and like maybe having like the like a one that's only open on the bottom, so like when it closes, it'll still stay because it's still sealed on top. But that way, it just adds more protection. People buy protectors for everything right now.
True.
The third party aftermarket for that stuff is kind of crazy. So I think just another way to kind of get something to protect the stuff that you have, but you can also throw on all of the studio jargon that needs to be on there. I think that's a win-win.
That's a good point. We'll take that back. I like that.
Sure. 2 good notes today.
Yes. Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Well, I think we went through the majority of things that I wanted to talk about today. There's a couple more Q&As that we'll get to, but I think they're more studio based than they are Scanavo based. One of them are like repressings, reprints. The studios are kind of the ones that are to say if they are able to do a second pressing. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a commercial decision. If they want to do a reprint, I think there are different dimensions. We don't really interfere in the commercial decision. If they want to reprint, we tell them that, hey, the first movers purchasing this, they might be upset. Lionsgate, they've had this little first pressing on it. I believe it's called. I think that's really smart. I think that kind of respects the fast movers. I think there's also a world wherein reprint is international. So we've seen over the years very different artworks culturally applied. Let's say in UK, where it makes sense. So there might be could be a Mission Impossible artwork that's more appropriate there. Mm-hmm. And then it's a different print over here. There used to be a lot of these, hey, the UK version I like better. So sometimes there would be a mix of reprints, wherein certain international versions would be printed later on when the moment was there for domestic printing in the US. So there's a whole library of reprints that might not have been activated yet that we're going to see. We tend to discourage a reprint immediately right after it's done. But again, it's a purely commercial decision from the studios.
Okay. Another question that I had here, we talked a lot about Steelbooks today, a little bit about the Criterion Scanavo cases. Are there any other types of cases that Scanavo kind of mass produces that are used fairly often in physical media?
Yes, actually, we have a very healthy business. We call them monster boxes. It's an internal. I don't have a sample with me here, but it's basically if you go to the Walmarts of the world and you have the complete TV series box with up to 36 discs. Those kind of really thick boxes. They're also produced by our team. So that's a very healthy business unit for us as well. Sure. We also work with certain aspects of our business. We also do beauty and cosmetics. There's some of the same R&D and tools and technologies that are being applied. So we also work way outside media at large. We also work in different arenas. So Yeah, we definitely have other things on the side, to Matt's point, that people might not be aware of. Again, Scanavo is typically not a consumer brand; it's a B2B brand. I'm glad that you called out the criterion that says Scanavo, and once in a while our name comes out in a trade, but we never really envisioned that Scanavo was going to be a consumer brand. But who knows in the future? Steelbook is it's definitely a consumer brand, and we're also going to be leaning into embracing the Steelbook brand more. So more to come, but there will be some announcements from Scanavo on how we're going to elevate the Steelbook brand for certain initiatives. So yeah,
Soon.
stay tuned.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Well, that was going to be my last question, Dan. We talked about the early days of Steelbook, the present day. We touched a little bit on the future, but I guess without going into specifics and more just like a vast hypothetical branching aspect answer, where do you see the future of Steelbook going in the next 20 years, since it's been around for 20-ish years?
That's a good question. We always joke internally and say, "Oh, we're on this burning platform." And back in 2010, when I had just started the company, it was like, "Yeah, we got maybe 5 more years. Okay, let's make most of it." Here we are. I've never thought I was gonna have a career in this business either when I entered. So I'm just trying to say it's very hard to predict. And I think the Steelbook, I've seen a certain thing, going back to what you mentioned earlier, Jake, about the PlayStation challenge. I just wanted to throw in another thought about this. I think it's called streaming fatigue and subscription, too many subscriptions. I think there's something happening, and I always challenge my team to also think outside of the consumers that we're resonating with. I would love to have more of our kids, so to speak, also come on board, the Swifties, to also start collecting from an educational or from an ownership perspective. So, if we can get the new generation on board, I'm not going to call out in ages on this podcast, but that's something I really hopeful that we can do. And I'd love to also understand from you, Jake, how your outreach is. If you also get, the new consumers popping up and asking questions, that's something I think is super important.
One thing that I like about kind of making content about physical media is that you get a lot of people kind of shooting things your way, but then you get a lot of specifics pop up on your feed all the time. And I keep on seeing newer generations. I would say people in their early 20s just going and maybe not purchasing new, but at least starting their physical media journey.
Love it.
Whether that be just even going to Goodwill and buying the movies they love from a DVD player that they find there, and whatever handful of DVDs that they see there. They are. I'm with you, Dan. I think they're finally realizing the importance of ownership, I guess, because they've never really had that before. Whether it be like just living with your parents and finally going off on your own and seeing what things are actually important to you and things you want to have in your house to kind of go for entertainment. I think that plays a major factor, and I don't really see that ever going away either.
And I think that there's too many algorithms thrown at us, not to get too philosophical, but everything that's thrown at us and suggested in our menu, your Netflix menu is different from mine, and etc. So I think, when the young kids want to learn about David Lynch or Kieslowski or whoever it might be, it's extremely hard unless you go to an actual library to get access to that. So I think there's a huge educational element here for more art house. I and again, hats off to Criterion for being so educational in there. It's almost like an endorsement. If it's a Criterion, then it's a must watch. It's got that stamp, and their talent engagement is amazing. There's a lot to be said about that. I think we're too mainstream in many ways, and I think the kids need to be given access to other things, and it's harder for them today than it was for us back then. 100%. Go ahead.
I'll throw this in here. I recently just took my kids to Legoland on a dad and kid trip. My son is 7 and my daughter is 5. And on the road trip up, it was like a 2.5-3 hour drive. They wanted to play on my Switch, and it was a game that I downloaded that needed Wi-Fi connectivity. And as soon as you said it just clicked to me. It's like, well, if I had the game,
Yeah.
You know, it's not an online game. It just happens to be one of those games that you need to be online for. Like if I just had the cartridge, even if it was Minecraft, like we would have been able to good to go. So I've since then I've been trying to kind of instill in them, okay, when we go to Target, Walmart, Best Buy, or whatever it is, if you want to look at this movie or buy it, like let's not just go to Netflix, let's not scout out on Amazon Prime. Let's pop in I have a Pioneer Elite Blu-ray player. Let's go up, grab it, and then put it in there. Let's have that physicality to it instead of just sitting down on the couch with the remote and clicking something. So a little younger than maybe some of the Swifties that Dan's was talking about, because their income right now is still my income. It's not their own. But you know, I hope that what Dan says, it keeps going.
Yeah, my kids are 10 and 8, and we're probably at a 50-50 split. Like we'll either watch some things or streaming, or every Friday we have a family movie night, and more often than not, they come down here, pick something out because they like to watch the movie, and then they like to drill into the special features to see how that movie was made. Like especially with like stop motion animation movies, they love to see that process of like how meticulous it actually takes to kind of make even like a second of film, how many movements that actually takes to make it. So I don't know. I feel like the future is a little bit dimmer than what it was, but I feel like there is still some light at the end of the tunnel for people that like to collect.
There's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's clear as day that there's still something there for those that want to celebrate an IP when it's launched, regardless of entertainment factor, genre, or platform factor. That's what I wanted to say. So, and that's to your question to Dan that led us here. I worked for a company. I've been with Steelbook now for about 2.5 years now, but I worked with Steelbook. I bought Steelbooks from them for 10 years as we created collector's editions and put Steelbooks in them. And one of the things I loved when I got on here was how big the company actually really was, how it's just more than Steelbook. But also what kind of excites me to the question is what our role is going to be into it. We have very smart people here as we look towards the future to come up with these ideas and talk to the creatives at video game studios and movie studios to create whatever that next evolution is, whether it's an icon art MIDI or something else branded that is a collectible for you, that is your game, but also collectible at the same time, or movie and Blu-ray at the same time. So, you know, whether that's brown nosing or whatever you want to call it, I think this is it's going to be an interesting 18 months, but I think also exciting at the same time because we can really get creative and have fun with it.
Yeah. And again, it's very humbling to work with, you know, both, you know, you, Jake, creating the demand and having the, you know, a voice in the community, but also the studios are really, really working hard to keep physical and Steelbook alive and putting in the investments. And they're having their internal discussions about it. Home entertainment does not get the attention or the budget it used to, so that it's even harder now. So the people who are left in this space, they really have to be creative. They have to, you know, take the right risks, and we see that every day. And it's very humbling, to be honest. We are the more simple manufacturer in this space, but there is a lot of dynamics behind the scenes that are, you know, really, you know, driving our business forward.
This has been a pleasure talking with you guys today. I can't thank you enough for hopping on the podcast. Dan, Matthew, is there any final words you want to say before we finally get out of here?
Just, you know, Jake, keep doing what you're doing. We love it. I've been a follower for a long time. It is very humbling. I think the Steelbook brand, again, to the reason I spoke to, has never been stronger. So I think it's you know, it takes a village. We will do ours on Scanavo side to keep it alive. The pie is shrinking, but I think we've got a good thing going here. And let's spread the word. Let's bring the kids in.
Yeah, and to some of the things we brought up before, you know, whether it's Reddit, Discord, Instagram, TikTok, post, share. As Dan mentioned, everyone is seeing it. these stakeholders that are high up there are seeing it and feeling it. So, being on here is huge, and we very much thank you to you, Jake, and the Steelbook Obsessed community for that. But this is just the beginning. Keep on getting it out there. People will keep on seeing it, and we'll be creating more for you to pick up.
Well, perfect, guys. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. This has been episode number 58 of Boutique Talk. And until next time, I'll see ya.